Well, for everybody that is listening to this, we've got about 5 minutes before we get on. And so, a couple things I want to explain before we get started. So, for all of you that are behind the curtain, so to speak, you'll notice on the Facebook group and Build Your Business Today is our business group that you are in and you're watching this in. What we did with that is, for some reason, Facebook is not working with us today because we're also going to broadcast to our business page. But rather, what it did is it hooked up to my personal page. So what you're going to see there is a pilot ship. So let me explain that. I've worked a number of years in the consulting industry, and the pilot ship probably best expresses what it's like to be a consultant. In that, a pilot ship, if you're not familiar with this, is large ships move across the ocean, Gulf space, etc. But typically, when they come into a port, especially a port that has some tricky navigation, tricky currents, shoals, etc., they'll take on a harbor pilot. And what the harbor pilot's job is, they're in command, but they're not. The captain hasn't surrendered control per se. But what the captain has done, the captain has allowed you to basically take control of his boat to take it to the pier. That is exactly what we're talking about here with consulting. And so today's show, this is CIB, and that is creating a consulting or improvement business. I was going to originally call it improvement, but then people would think this is home improvement, and it is not home improvement. And so what we're going to be talking about is what are all the available marketing and sales channels to you. Because if, in fact, you're going to have to build a practice without being able to do face to face, and you're going to do this virtually, this is going to be just slightly challenging to pull off. I don't necessarily mean that it's impossible. Nothing's impossible, but it is just far more difficult to sell a consulting practice when they can't meet you because it is really a trust issue. And if you followed any of my shows, you know that one of the things I talk about is that trust is not something you really can build in the initial meetings. What you build in the initial meetings is a risk reduction strategy. See, people don't trust you until they know you. And typically, when does that come about? Unless you've got like a 6 month sales process, and God forbid, is that they know you after you've delivered something. So anyway, that's why the pilot ship on there. Now I'm going to hit that up again. No, I'm going to leave that alone because if you're not in our Facebook group during the broadcast, you're not going to be in our Facebook group. Now the other thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be checking out where we stand on radio. Oh, yep, it would be helpful if I signed in. And we got about 3 minutes left here before it's time to go to show. So one of the challenges that, and I'm a geek, so it's not like I don't have the ability to run a lot of technology. But right now we're running, let's see, we got radio.co platform open. We're running StreamYard. We're on Facebook. So we're running a number of multiple platforms at the same time. And that is always an interesting proposition. And whether you have the bandwidth, do you have enough? Bandwidth in the internet, bandwidth on your computer? Okay, we're down to about a minute 20. So for those of you watching, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to turn on the sound right now, and I want to listen to what's being played. So I've got my cues, even though I have a clock. It's better to listen to it. Oh, we don't need that one.
13 is another Ask Me Anything. Be sure and save up your questions. Let me know what you want to hear because this is officially season 4. I welcome you. I am RJ Lewis, and you've been listening to season 4, episode 1 of Planning Out Loud. I'll see you next week. We're going to have some fun. Up next is Ralph Peterson. I'm actually not sure what he's going to be going over, but definitely listen in and listen up to the Ralph Peterson show. I'll see you guys next Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be sure, if you're listening to the replay, to like and subscribe.
Okay, so what we did here is now you're getting a chance to experience a little studio engineer. And what I did is I went ahead and I took a look at where we stood in the recording. And so what RJ Lewis just went off at today's Operations Tuesday, and she's got a lot of experience in the area of lean and how do small businesses use the concepts of lean to start. So now what we're doing is we're running a series of commercials. That's what's running right now. Okay, so we've got about 2 minutes before we start, and other than that, I don't know what else to tell you other than we're going to rock and roll. I'm going to give you some directions about pages to be on. Every show that we do has a set of show notes, and I'll make sure that the access to the show notes for you in the group, you'll be able to access that during the show. So let's see how well I can absolutely multitask here. So let's do that one. There it is. Boom. Back to that. Let's go to Facebook groups. You know, really, I could use a couple computers to do this. Okay, here's my comment. Show notes. All right, show notes are up, and you can get those. Let's go back and check our time. All right, we're down to about 40 seconds. And I guess the only other thing to say to you is that we run a different format in my shows than the others. All the other shows are 15-minute with a break, and we break it into four podcasts because a lot of my shows are rebroadcast on other stations. In fact, what I do is I have done 30 minutes because the people that we're working with are on a 30-minute platform. And so if you ever get into radio, we call it a time clock. And so my time clock for my shows are different than everybody else's because mine are syndicated on other platforms. All right, here we go. We're down to about 15 seconds. So I hope you enjoy. I will try to monitor Facebook groups if you put any comments or anything in there. This normally would be on the Facebook business page. It is not. I can't tell you exactly why because it was last week, but when I tried to do it now, it didn't work. Okay, here we go. 3, 2. Good day, good morning, good evening. I don't know what time it is where you are. It is good day here. Coming to you live from the studios of IBGR. That's the International Business Growth Radio Network. North American studios just outside of downtown Richmond, Virginia. My name is William Eastman. I am the host for today's show. And today's show is all about what are the marketing and sales channels available to you as a consultant. This is part of our series about how to build a consulting/improvement firm. Originally, I wanted to call it how to build an improvement firm because I really think that's a better term. And quite frankly, consulting has got such a bad name. And in fact, if you go to my personal website, and that's just go williameastman.us. If you go there, you'll find on the title page in big letters, the unconsulted. All right. So that's kind of what I think about the industry. But other than that, what you need to do is you need to go to the website. Now, let's talk a little bit about that so we can get started. For those of you that are listening and watching, unfortunately for you, watching on our Facebook group, okay, and that is Build My Business Plan. Build My Business Today is our group. If you want to get to it, go to IBGR Network, and that is our Facebook business page. Now, let's go to the webpage. Let me not confuse you, all right, or confuse me. Our website is ibgr.network. IBGR is our call sign, just like any other radio station. .network is our name. It's also our URL and our broadcast frequency. Now, when you get there, you're going to see a navigation bar below the graphic. What you want to do is click notes. That'll take you into our notes page. And it's probably got 5, 6, 7 shows in the queue. Either shows that have just completed, shows that are about to start. If you're listening to this live, then you'll see CIB.07. And that is understanding available sales channels. My name again is William Eastman. Now, on the other hand, if in fact you don't see that because you're listening to this as a replay or as a recording, then what you need to do is right next to that, you'll see a new choice for business search. Put in CIB.07, creating a consulting/improvement business, and this will pop up. All right, let's get rolling. Let's get started. So, in the introduction, last week, let me talk a little bit what we did last week in CIB.06, is I talked about building a value ladder. And the concept that we've been talking about here in this whole consulting arena is I made some basic assumptions. And one of the assumptions I made is that if you're going to build a consulting firm, it's going to be much more for smaller businesses, not larger businesses. And the reason I made that assumption is number one, that's the market that we work in. But also, number two, is that breaking into large corporate consulting by yourself, you're not part of a larger firm, a bigger consulting house, is exceedingly difficult. And if you're saying, well, I want to go out there and I want to get the $250,000 or $500,000 contracts, which, by the way, you do want to get, by yourself is going to be a little bit difficult. It is easier in this sense to go after smaller businesses and build a reputation. Now, selling to large companies, other than not being part of a firm, is much easier. Selling to small firms is incredibly challenging because you have a couple different dynamics. Number one is a lot of business owners have never bought consulting, and so they just don't understand what it is that they're buying. And they have this image of what they're buying, and they've had these stories about what they're buying, but unless they're escapees from large corporations, they don't really have a sense of what that purchase is. So you have the one problem of you got to educate the customer. Number two is your fee based, and this is really where I'm going with this, is that your fee base has got to be different. In a large corporate consulting, you're consulting to a $100 million company larger, is that they've bought consultants before, they know what the price range is. And so they're willing to pay good money for value. Well, smaller businesses haven't done that, number one. Number two is they don't have the revenue. So I could sell multiple days. I did sell multiple days to IBM up in New York in their marketing area. We're doing a market repositioning with them, kind of a collaborative effort. I was able to charge $3,500 a day. Why? Because IBM saw the value of what I was providing. It was worth it to them in terms, we're talking multi-million-dollar impact. Okay. And, they know that $3,500 is not on the cheap, but it's not on the high end of what you could charge. If I was to go to a business owner with $1 million company or a $500,000 company, guess what? $3,500 for one day is never going to happen. And in a consulting deal and a consulting gig, I can't do anything in a day. So what we had to do is we had to talk about how, as a consultant, you have to change your frame of reference. And what we discussed in last week and the week prior was moving from a time-based model. And when I was selling, and I was a managing partner in a consulting firm, when I sold consultants, what I did is I sold brains and I managed calendars. Right? Pretty simple model. And so it's all about having a smart person that fits this account in their billing. Well, that is not the case with small business. So what you have to do is you have to say, I need a different consulting model. Well, there is one. It's called asset-based consulting. And an asset-based consulting is I take what's in here and I transfer it to paper or electrons, whatever. You put it in word processor. Obviously, it's not on paper unless you print it. And so what I have to figure out is then I have to build a mix of products that are pretty much standalone products. And I do that for a number of reasons. One is if I'm going to build a value ladder, I need something that I can sell that's an entry-level product that will provide just enough help and support to them that they will get a chance to taste what I'm doing. And if they're good at what they're doing, it should be about sufficient to handle their problem. Now, if in fact they need more than that, then they have the opportunity to sell some services on top of it. And what we talked about was the smart move is start with the concept of a 3-tier model. You have an entry level, by the way, do no free. Now, we do free at the radio station because people are used to free radio. All right. Now, maybe if we were broadcasting from satellite, you'd have to pay Sirius something to get available, get to us. But fundamentally, is the paradigm of radio, it's free. And so, if that's the case, that is the piece that we're doing for free. I don't particularly like it, but that's the nature of the beast. And since we decided to get in this business, that's what we got to deal with. And so you have an entry level, level one, that is almost all product, no service, basics. And you price that reasonably, okay, in terms of you're able to get a margin on it, and it's low enough that if somebody has the problem and you've been working the sales process correctly, the price is not going to drive them off. Now, let me flip over to the other side. at the top level, at level 3, this is your flagship program. This is the one where they get everything that you can do, everything you have, products, services, the whole bit. And this one you're going to price expensively. Now, do you want to sell some of those? Yes. However, the goal here with the third level is much more of anchoring your pricing, because, and if you bought software, you've done any of that, you know that the sweet spot here, the absolute sweet spot, is core 2, is your core offer at level 2, is the place that you want them to go. This provides them everything that they need, and it's priced more than 1 but less than 3. And so the advantage you have here with that is that it makes 3, this expensive offer, makes 2 look really, really good to you. Okay. So that's where we were. Now, we left that off, and I said, okay, this week, what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about sales channels. And so that's what I got on the page. So if you're not there yet, here's what you need to do. You need to go to ibgr.network. Okay. And when you get there, you go to the navigation bar at the top. You will see notes, click notes. And if you're listening to this live, you'll see CIB.07, creating a consulting improvement business. Open that up. If it's not there on the first page, there's about 2,200 pages of show notes in here. Pretty extensive library we have. You can thumb through that. In fact, I'd recommend you do that sometime, but not right now. So right next to that, you'll see new choice of business search. Put in CIB.07, creating a consulting/improvement business, and it'll pop up. All right, so I covered where we were. Now let's talk about what we're going to do. Given the options that you have for the sale, for marketing and selling, which pretty easy to say, except for me, what sales channels should you concentrate on to gain results? All right. And recognizing that in a online only sale in consulting is a tough road. So let's just get that real clear here. All right. So it's not an impossible task, just very different. Even when compared with most intangible services, consulting can seem like vapor, formless. All right. Now, I want to stop there and have a conversation about that, because what a lot of consulting firms do is they brand their black box. And what that means is that you've got this black box that you have to buy from them, and you don't get to look inside of it until you bought it. Now, I've never used that. That's not the style or approach we used. What we used to tell customers is how to do it. Now, you run the risk that they'll say, oh, fine, we can do that. Thank you for that. We'll go do it ourselves. That's a risk that you run. Typically what happens is that, especially with, and I'm going to use this not in a derogatory manner, but when you're selling to people that are less sophisticated in terms of buying consulting services, they really don't know what they're buying. And they're going, well, that probably should be easy to solve. Not so much. What we would do by detailing the entire process from A to Z, and it may be 2-3 pages long, and I mean really detailing it out, almost if you've got any standard operating procedures for how to do a particular type of consulting, or it's an assessment process or something of that nature, is that they'll look at it and they'll go, we can't do that. Now, I don't mean they can't do that in terms of they can't do it as a client. They can't do it themselves. And so they're going to go, I see what it is. But for most consulting firms, they rather keep their processes in a black box, as vaporware, or as voodoo, as I used to do when I used to sell against large consulting companies like McKinsey, KPMG, Accenture. That's the term I would use. I said, well, you can pay them a lot of money to find out what voodoo they're using, or I'll give you the recipe. Okay. And so I really think that you can do this, but you're going to have to think through how you put together kind of a constellation or universe of resources, because you're really going to have to educate the customer and reduce the amount of risk you're asking them to take. Don't get them to trust you, because I think that's a fool's errand. Reduce the risk. So where they're at the end of your process, end of your marketing and sales process, they're going, this is a moderate risk for me to take. All right. So now, the other thing I would say to you is that, and it's in the paragraph that I wrote, make sure that if you can possibly do it, walk the property. Now, if you're consulting with a company in Nigeria and you're in Singapore, probably not going to happen, right? But if it's possible, you want to walk the property at some point. If you've got customers that are not too far away from you, I usually would walk properties on anything I could drive to in half a day. And I try to limit the customers I had to that distance because there's something about getting the pulse of the place, talking to people, getting the ambiance that you simply can't capture in any type of assessment and survey. But if you're consulting out of Australia and you got a company in Bangalore that you're consulting to, well, you're just going to have to make it work. All right. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to take you through how do you build the best content or asset-based website you possibly can. All right. We're going to talk about that. And I'm going to do this with links. I didn't build this whole thing out because these are different shows that I have done in the past. And I thought, that just makes more sense. We'll put a link in and go to that. Integrating that with your marketing, sales, delivery, and service processes. And so what that hints at right now is that what you have is you've designed a process that you're going to follow pretty religiously for marketing. And then you're going to have a process for sales, which is typically the sales funnel. Then you're going to have a process for delivery, which is the consulting processes. And then finally, how do you service those accounts, both during the contract and are you going to do anything afterwards? And so what you want to do is make sure that you've kind of mapped that out because as you build this universe, this online universe that you're going to have to put together, or you're going to edit what you have, you got to make sure that everything that you can cover is covered. And the third issue here is looking at how much of this can be automated. So, for example, on marketing, you can go to somebody like Hootsuite. We don't get paid by them, and they're not an advertiser of ours, though that would be nice. But Hootsuite, you can automate a lot of the marketing outreach. So not so much in response to people who are responding to your marketing collateral that you're putting out there, but all the initial stuff to get people to go, hey, I want to check these guys out. You can automate that. And of course, if you're in sales, you got a CRM. And so I don't know if there's a CRM, customer relationship management software platform, et cetera, that does not have workflows that you can automate in that. Now, on the consulting side, I think you can do the same thing. At the very minimum is go to Google Spreadsheet. And from Google Spreadsheet, I think it's about $2.5, $3 a month. You can buy or lease or pay for an app that is a project planner. And it goes right, it's a template that goes right into in Google Spreadsheet. I was going to say Calc, but that's Microsoft. And you can build your plan there and do your automation there. Okay. And that works pretty well. But the more that you can automate, and of course, on the service side, you go back to your CRM. All right. So let me check the time here. Okay. We're in pretty good shape. So here's what I'm going to do. If you've got to be at the show notes, I'll tell you what it is if you want to follow along. One is you go to the show notes and you click the first one, and that is how does your online presence affect sales? Now, if you want to find this later and you're not looking at the show notes, then you need to be on our website and in the notes or on any page. I think almost every page has a search button. You want episode A.030, a virtual revenue model, okay? And that'll take you through it. So I'm going to scroll on down and I'm going to talk about, okay, what are the potential areas that we're going to go to? So let me create the context for the following couple of show note pages we're going to go to. Is that you're building a storefront, except you're not doing it with bricks and mortar, and you're running a consulting firm. I don't know what the bricks and mortar would look like anyway. It's not like you got a food store. Okay, we kind of know what that looks like. So, but it is bricks and mortar. So you figure that at the minimum, you have to have a website. You don't have a website, you don't exist. You're going to sell virtually, you don't have a website, you can't do it. You also have to take a look at social media because you can have a business page. Obviously, most of everybody out there knows that by now. You can have a business page on the social media platform of your choice. My thing is on it, where are your customers? We currently occupy right now, we occupy Facebook and we occupy LinkedIn because we think that grabs our customer base. We're not doing much on Instagram because we don't think that our people are on Instagram. If they were, we'd be there. And as for Twitter, we use Twitter as kind of an event's coming up to do a reminder. So the emphasis here is website, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Okay. So that is part of the universe. All right. So now, as we look at that, how well is it going to help you create website traffic? How well is that going to help you at least initially start the product and service sales process? Number three is if you were looking for ancillary dollars, I was going to take this off, but I left it on, and that is you could sell access to your traffic. And when we get to that, I'm going to talk about where this may pay off for you as a consultant, because more than likely you don't consult in everything. And so maybe you don't build a consulting firm physically and you're all in the same office building, but you build one virtually that if you don't do finance, you know, a finance consultant, then you kind of band together. Okay. And then investing in whatever supportive platforms are out there, as we talked about with CRM and all that. So creating website traffic. And in fact, there's another link there that I'm not going to click, but if you're here, you can see it says A.026. We got a whole host of stuff. I did a whole series on making money off your website. So I'm just pulling some of that content off. So you basically, you figure if you're going to create website traffic, there are two major areas that you're going to focus on. All right. You're going to focus on search and design. And my guess is design comes first. You want to have a website that, one, the search engines will find easily. Now, you can get into paid stuff. I'm not saying do it. I'm not saying not do it. But let's work organically. How can we make this the best organic search we possibly can? And I'm going to design my site that way. Also, number two is the statistics for us. They may not fit you, but the statistics for us is that currently about 55% of our listeners or viewers are coming in on mobile. And if you're going to build it for a mobile platform, there are things that you can't really do on desktop. Now, I know that just about all the major platforms, WordPress, Weebly, Wix, Square, they all will do the conversion. But I would say to you, design for mobile. And that's where the future is really at. Okay. And then if you want more information on that, just hit that link to, and this is show A.026, and it'll take you into more information you ever want to know. Now, number two is once I've done that, then I have to understand that this is a sweet spot if you run a consulting firm, because right now, what everybody is saying in the marketing world is content creation, content creation, content creation. Well, guess what you do for a living? You create content. Now, I also have the same link there with A.026 if you want to get into that. But content production is really what you are. In fact, if you want to think about it differently and accurately, you're a publisher. So when you look at your consulting firm, what you're really doing is you are a publisher, because your goal is to surround customers with messaging that makes them more intelligent consumers of what you have to offer. That's number one. Number two is you have what's called the inoculation effect. And the inoculation effect is you understand what your competitors are doing and saying. You look at their websites, not too hard. And what you do is you don't diss them with your stuff, but you know what their Achilles heels are. You know where their weak points are. And when you write your stuff, you write it in a way that addresses that without saying, hey, well, if you want the Karen's consulting firm, here's the things that are wrong with it. You can't do that. That doesn't work. So not ethical. But also it turns customers off. Okay. All right. I'm checking the timeout, and I best get through this here pretty quickly. All right. So selling access to your traffic. Now, here's some real choices that you have. If you're building a website that is generating revenue, here is a way that you can generate more traffic. And I've got them on here. Direct contact with advertisers, contextual advertising, outbound links, etc. So you can see that list of bullets. And then investing in supportive platforms, you can spin off parts of your offer to new sites. One of the things you could do, in fact, one of the things you probably will do, is let's say you're going to put together a webinar to talk about your consulting operation. You're more than likely going to go to use a landing page. Well, now you're starting to spin off new sites. The other thing is that if you find yourself a partner, somebody else who does what you don't do, and they're in the consulting business and they're kind of in the same stage of growth, then what you can do there is, well, I can put my stuff on their site. I can put their stuff on my site. All right. So there's some thoughts here on the consulting side. Now, on the website, and I'm taking you back now to CIB.07. So all you following along, that's where we're at. And this is creating a consulting or improvement business. And we're talking about specifically today how to understand what are the available sales channels. My name is William Eastman. Now, if you scroll down, the second one here is expanding your consulting universe. So if we click that link, I think we can at least address parts of this before we go to break. Just got to load. Okay. Oh, let me see here. Yeah, this is talking more about website traffic. And for those of you who are listening to this later, go to our search bar and you're looking for episode A.031, sources of online revenue. And this takes it to the next level. And this is pretty exhaustive. I did an entire show on this, but I really think it's in your best interest to do this, because what's going to happen is as you get more traffic through your site, you are going to raise your ranking. And so even if it's people coming to your site that has nothing to do with your consulting firm, it's creating more traffic, period. And it's going to raise your status as a website. Also, as customers come to look at this, or you're looking to do partnerships, this could make or break a partnership. Like if you go to somebody and you say, okay, let me take somebody we have on the air here, and that's Russell Colburn, who is a CFO, fractional CFO. And I want to partner with Russell, and he doesn't know me and I don't know him. And we start a conversation. He looks at the traffic I got. And you know what? He just may go, that may be the deal breaker in the positive side. So you can go to Google AdWords account, whether that's paid per click. You can set up the account. You can create a private ad offer. That's another option you have. One that I really would consider here, the one that we're looking at, is affiliate links. As you get other people who are helping you as a consulting operation, set up affiliate links, okay, and then perhaps create a lead generating channel. And so if you have, for example, if you have a referral partner, then what they're going to be doing, you're going to be referring to them. They're going to be referring to you. And so that is a way that we can go. Okay, we got that far. I was surprised. I wasn't sure we'd get through that. All right, so when we go to break, when we come back from break, we're going to be talking about conference calls and webinars, because this is now part of how do I get people to taste or flavor this. But the thought I'm going to leave you with is the beauty of the internet today is that people get an opportunity to consume before they buy, right? They get a chance to do comparison shopping before they buy. If any of you out there were trained traditionally in the sales process, is that comparison. In other words, you've worked somebody through, you've got maybe not a formal proposal, but something written out with, it's got deliverables and some numbers in it. Most clients will shop that. Or if they bought consulting before, they'll go through their files and they'll look at it and see how it compares. And so comparison was something that you anticipated in the sales process, and it came later. They couldn't do a comparison until you put, basically an offer in front of them. Well, nowadays with the web, it's a different deal. It changes the sales cycle in that, or the sales or the process in the sales funnel, excuse me, because what the customer can do is that they go through your site, they are sampling everything that you have. All right. All right, let's take it to break. So you're listening to IBGR, the International Business Growth Radio Network. My name is William Eastman. This is show or podcast CIB.07, and that is creating a consulting / improvement business. And today's show is on understanding the available sales channels. And my goal or objective is to cover this in enough of this so that you can make some decisions about what makes the most sense for you. Now, if you would like, and you're in the IBGR group, that's IBGR Network, that's our Facebook group. If you go there and you join our private group, which is Build Your Business Today, you'll have to ask to get in because it's private. I will give you some additional information here. So with that, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah. Hmm. All right, for everybody, I was just checking something out. I have got a couple typos that got by me when I put together the show notes, and I was looking for where I could get in, and I had enough time to get in and make the changes, but I can't because I allowed StreamYard to take over my website in terms of where I would be going to do edits. So I'm just going to have to wait till the end of the break. So anyway, we're about a minute and a half before we restart, so you can kind of get a sense of the flow that we're going to. And the goal of this whole series is that if you want to go into the consulting business, it's not a simple industry, but it's very lucrative. And if you have technical expertise, you're an expert at finance, at operations, at marketing, sales, service, people. You're a good or great coach with executives. We have a process for how you can do that. Now, coaching is a little bit different than consulting, right? But look at it this way. I have a different view since I'm not a certified or trained coach. My view of it is coaching, training, and consulting is really all the same thing in that those three terms represent different channels. They're different mediums. If I'm working with the owner on their personal goals and objectives, and it's kind of one-on-one, you might call that a consulting gig. If I'm working with the owner and the executive team and trying to get them to do things, or their managers, we could probably call that consulting. If I've got a bunch of people in the classroom and we're doing a half a day of training, call that training. The reality is the same kernel of information, the same things are being imparted. It's more of the delivery media or the delivery methodology. So a lot of professional coaches out there wince when I say that, but that's okay. They don't have a radio show, or if they do, it's not on right now. So you got to listen to me. Okay, we've got to go back. 3, 2. And we're back. You're listening to IBGR, the International Business Growth Radio Network. Now, what does our call sign stand for? IBGR. It's a real call sign. We did that on purpose. If you're listening to a radio station, I don't care. You turn it on in a car, you turn it on in your house, your office. They all have call signs. I used to run a station called WNTW, and the W stood for east of the Mississippi. That's what we're using in North America. But the other three letters, alphabet soup. Who knows what the FCC will assign you? Here, we made a conscious decision to make our call sign who we are. So the I stands for both internet and international. We are heard in 177 countries around the world. 177. Who's listening to us? Business owners and entrepreneurs. What are they listening to? We talk about business growth, starting, growing, and exiting a business. How often do we do that? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then the R on the end is exactly what it should be, radio, because we are a radio station. Even though we're on the internet, we don't run like an internet station. We run like a regular terrestrial station. And then when you put .network, that is now the name of the company. It is the URL, and it's also our broadcast frequency. So you need to go to the website. When you get there, ibgr.network, and you get to the website, then what you want to do is you want to go to notes, which is on the navigation bar, click notes, and it'll take you to a page that's got a bunch of notes in the queue, either shows that we just completed or shows that are coming up. And if this one's here, CIB.07, click it. If it's not, and you're listening to this as a replay or you're listening to this as a podcast, then right next to that list, you're going to see, let me get the terminology right, even though I wrote it, new choice for business search, and put CIB.07, creating a consulting/improvement business, and this will pop up. And the CIB is creating an improvement business, but then the more I thought about it, people go, well, you're doing home improvement? We're not doing that. So my name is William Eastman, and what I'm going to ask you to do now is scroll on down, and we are in what you need to do segment. Now, if you want to follow this on Facebook, because I am broadcasting this live on Facebook, our group, IBGR Network, same as our URL, will take you to our Facebook page. And I have a link at the bottom of the page for that. And if you want to access this, the live video, then you got to join the group, and that is Build Your Business Today is the group. You'll see it right there. Click it, ask to join. You'll be let in, and then from that point forward is we have a little different relationship. We can engage in more two-way conversation rather than one. Now, what did we do before the break? So this is broken into two podcasts. All right, we have a 30-minute up front, and we have a 30-minute on the backside. And so what we did before is number one is we talked about kind of a review of where we've been. That we're talking to people who want to start a consulting firm that's going to focus more on small and medium-sized businesses and not large ones. And the rationale is hard as an independent consultant to break in the large consulting market until you have a track record. So let's start smaller. If you're going to do that, then number two is you have to use a different business model than they traditionally use. So and basically selling time, what you need to do here is you need to build an asset model, which is you transfer your knowledge into products. Okay, that's number two. Number three, we talked about the fact that you need to create a value ladder, that there are three levels to your offer. The top offer is expensive, not outrageous, but expensive. It anchors your core offer, which is level two. And then level one is where is your starter kit to get them in. And there are a number of reasons to do this. It helps you on anchoring pricing, but also is that if you only have one thing and you only sell it at one level, what's your upsell? Okay. And from that, I said, okay, look at online as bricks and mortar. And then basically our storefront consists of the front of the building is the web house. Awesome. The website is the front of the building. One side of the building is LinkedIn. The other side of the house is Facebook. And then maybe the back of the building is Twitter. In other words, you've got to use all these different platforms that are appropriate. Website is a non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. I would think that even if you don't do much on Facebook, you probably need a presence. Let's say that most of your clients are on LinkedIn. I still think you need a Facebook presence. I think it's good for you. Now, it doesn't go the other way in that if you're not selling to business owners or executives, people in leadership positions, then LinkedIn may not be worth your time. It's a great platform. That's not the question. The question is, where are the people that you want to have? Where's your sweet spot? Who are your perfect customers? That's where I want to go. And so we took that in, and what we did is we covered over the first two links here. We talked about how does your online presence affect sales, and then we took it a little bit further and said expanding your consulting universe by all the different ways that you could use your website to partner and to generate revenue independent of your consulting practice. And trust me, you want to do that. The third one I got here is conference calls and webinars. So if you go ahead and click that, and if you're listening to this as a replay or podcast and you can't get there at the moment, I'll tell you where we got this from. Because I put together a list of shows we've done addressing the different pieces. So this is episode C.005, conference calls and webinars. Now, everybody here has got to be an expert on Zoom or something like that. And so what we do know is that we can bring people in and we can get face-to-face in ways that we used to do that. So we got both the visual and the audio. All right. So advantages of conference calls, everybody's got a phone. Okay. You can get multiple people involved in the conversation. You can reach a relatively large audience. Okay. And if this is not Zoom, you don't have to dress professionally, but I would recommend, just as a habit, don't be sitting at 2:00 in the afternoon. What time is it right now? Don't be sitting at 1:39 in the afternoon on a Tuesday in your PJs. There's something about getting dressed and being professional, putting on a good shirt, putting on a jacket or dress, or whatever is professional in your business, and be professional. You'd be surprised of the psychology of it. Okay. Now, the disadvantage is you got technical issues with the equipment. You don't really get to the interpersonal communications that you would like to have. It's a tough place to get into negotiations and bargaining. It's certainly not personal. If the people that you're talking to are not familiar with the equipment, you got an issue there. But I think on this here, again, if we go to Zoom, I think on this, Most people now got comfortable with it. We still have some challenges. We get people on and they're kind of struggling with it. But I think the days of being able to go, I don't do that stuff is over. Okay. Now, webinars may be your best choice. Okay. And what I mean by that is in the consulting business, how are you going to give them a sample of what you do? Now, your website should do a pretty good job of it, but there are a couple of things there. Number one is I don't care how explicit and how well you write, you can be Hemingway. You cannot convey the full meaning in the text, right? So that's number one. Number two is some people do not learn from reading. There are people out there that they see a lot of text and their eyes glaze over. And so what the webinar gives you the opportunity to do is to bring them together and give them a taste. Now, when we talk about marketing, I said earlier that I really abhor the concept of free. But here, a webinar works pretty good in that what you can do is you can take somebody through a basic workshop on your product line. So, for example, let's go back to a level one product. It's a do it yourself. And when they buy it from you, there is no expectation whatsoever of that there's going to be a lot of service on it. You may check on them once to see did it work, you got it installed, et cetera, et cetera. But other than that, they're buying the product, they got to make it work. They're DIY, do it yourself. And so how do I get them to understand how that works? Well, maybe what I do is I do a webinar around a particular DIY product or service that I have, and I use that as a demonstration. Now, of course, this webinar is going to be for free. But again, if I'm going to be doing any type of marketing, what am I going to do? In other words, if your marketing does not require the customers to do anything, no requirement to do anything, then it's going to be passive, and more than likely, you're not going to get what you need. Now, most of us use, and you probably have done it yourself, use a webinar as a way of capturing email addresses. All right, so you put out advertisement, you got it on your website, you may have a landing page. So let's kind of play that out. I'm out there marketing on Facebook. I've got a Facebook business page. I've got several posts there that I'm going to promote. I tell people about the event, basically send them a ticket or a link. They click the link. They go to a landing page that gives them more detail than the promotion can. That's where they get their ticket. And now suddenly they're lined up for the webinar. Okay. And then it gives me the opportunity to take them through it and basically wow them on just what we're capable of doing. And so I think webinar is one of the best places to go. And now you got lots of choices. We fluctuate between Zoom and StreamYard. StreamYard is not a killer webinar platform, where Zoom does a better job. But we're also looking at things like AirMeet. I'd recommend a great startup company in India, and it's Air and Meet. Put it together and check them out. Now, the beauty of that is webinar is you can brand that to make that another storefront. Now this looks like your company. It looks like your business. And so that's just more and more branding that helps you get your message out. And you can have multiple rooms in there. So you can configure it that you let's say you have 3 products and 3 levels. Yeah, hell, you could have 9 rooms or 6 rooms in one of these platforms, and that you could send individual invites to say, hey, come in and join with me in here, because that's what I would do on a sales call. In fact, that's what I do on a sales call. Is I've got somebody in the sales process, and they're going, it sounds interesting. Say, hey, would you like to see a little bit more of this? And you're like, yeah, okay. So you send them the link, and you come into the room, and the room is pre-configured for that offer. Huh? Works pretty well. Okay. You can also add that to the revenue stream. Now, I'm only talking about it as a marketing tool, but let's take it a step beyond. Let's talk about how you could do consulting. So one of the things that we're doing with our packages is that our level 1 is almost entirely do-it-yourself. Level 2 is do-it-yourself, the same product with services on top of it. Well, the webinar would be a great place to go to have people to buy those services. Now, they can either buy the level 2 bundle on that product or service, or they buy level 1, and if they want the service, what do they got to do? they pay to come to my webinar on that. So they can either pay piecemeal, event by event, and of course it's going to cost them a little bit more than if they bought the package. But we talked about that in the value pricing. Okay, and it's a great place, I think, to generate really qualified leads when you're trying to figure out who's interested in what you're doing. I'm working with a company right now, Growth 10, and they got a great process for this, and they do this exceedingly well. All right, so the disadvantages, got the same tech issues. It's easy to get distracted because they get email coming in, they're getting text messages, they're missing what's going on. Obviously, with this, you got to put clothes on. All right, so last thing I'll leave you with is get help. If you need to hire somebody that's in this business, there are people out there I know. One organization, and if you join our group, I'll give you their name. But for about $350, they will configure Zoom for you to do all this. Now, $350, but you know what? For all this, pretty good, pretty good. Then do a dry run, bring in people that you know, and kind of go through it. You don't want the first time you've run this, common sense, be the first time that they see it. This has got to go good, and you really want to focus on one. You understand all the technology involved in it, okay, and also you want to understand how your branding looks like. So you set up an account for you if you've got two computers, or you have a friend. Get on your friend's computer and come into your event as a visitor or as a non-host and see how it looks. And of course, we talked about doing add-ons. Okay, I'm going back to the website. I'm going back to ibgr.network, and what we're going to be doing there at the network is we're going to be looking at show notes. Okay, notes for CIB.07, and that is creating your consulting firm. All right, so refresh my screen here, and then the next one we're going to be looking at. Boom, 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 boom. Technology. We just had a conversation about technology. Oh, there we go. The next one is you're really a publisher. So I'm back to our page, ibgr.network, notes. I'm on CIB.07, okay? And we're talking about your marketing sales channels. Number 4 here is you really are a publisher. Click that. Now, this is going to be, I think, what's going to make the difference for you. Now, I'm sure you all know you got to do this. And I haven't met any business owners lately for whom this is not true. Now, the title of this is The New World of Consulting. So if you scroll down, okay, this is going to be talking about which of the 6 consulting practices that we talked about earlier this year. And just to run through them and see how well my memory works. And we talk about that finance is a consulting practice area, and it's got a number of subdomains. You have operations, which is operations management and quality. I think those two go together, and that has its own subdomains. You've got HR, you got marketing and sales, you've got IT technology, and I think I got them all. Yeah, I think I did. Oh, strategy and OD was the last one. Yeah, you would think that the area of my profession, I would get that one right. But here we talked about, and let me see here, in show, boom, 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 in show CIB.03 that we did on 20 July, we talked about what those 6 practice areas are. And so you want to look at this because one of the things that I think is critical is for you to decide what you have the expertise to do. And this is really going to help you if, in fact, you want to find some partners. Who else can help you with this? All right. It's going to say, hey, you've got to have this consulting process mapped out. And you really want to do it before you do the website because there's or website, social media, webinars, landing pages, etc. Because a lot of the steps in the process, especially in marketing and sales, are going to be there, as well as consulting. There's no reason why you can't use a platform like Zoom to aid in your consulting practice. There's no reason why we can't do that. If we're going to pick up the phone and talk to each other, or we're going to send each other emails, well, let's just go. I hate to say it this way, but let's just get a room, okay? Have you converted what you know into tangible asset? Here's one I didn't talk about. Have you patented, trademarked, or protected your IP? Because that's something that you need to get on top of. If, in fact, your long-term plan is to, when you're done, sell the business. Okay, that's one thing. Uh, or liquidate the business. But if you're looking to build it bigger than, and you're in the consulting business, you've got to trademark or service mark or patent what you have. And I can tell you right now, you may double the value of your company if, in fact, you've done that with your intellectual property. All right, standalone and bundled solutions. Yep, we discussed that. And create a sales ladder. We discussed that. Okay, so we covered that list. All right, and then reopening your accounts or upselling. Now, I wrote this article here, so if you click this, and I'll tell you where to find it. This is we're back on ibgr.network. We're in the notes section. We're looking at CIB.07. And what this one will take you to is something we did on reopening after the pandemic. Now, this has a consulting spin to it, but the whole issue of you probably have accounts that have put you on hold. So this is one that I'd like to finish with because it's my favorite. And if you want to win some business, you want to get your foot in the door, you want to build your street cred. Here we go. This is known as episode F.018, reapproach by offering to roll up your sleeves. Now, let's put the pandemic aside. I wrote it with that in mind. But when you get down to what you need to do, it has nothing to do with the pandemic, right? Clients that you had, or let's say it's clients you don't have yet, and you're in a conversation with them about what's going on in the company. Why don't you reach out to them in the process and say, hey, I'll tell you what, if you're trying to get your first couple of gigs in, maybe, okay, thank you. I just got a Slack message here on a couple typos. That's what happens when I bang stuff out. Um, how about the impact? How about what happened to your business because of the shutdown? What happened to business that isn't working? And what this is, how do I roll up my sleeves? Because one of the key ways I can do this is I'm not telling you to do it for free, but if you want to get in the door, maybe a conversation about cost. I'll tell you what. Let me demonstrate what I can do. You're talking about an issue here. You're not sure that I'm the right choice. You're not sure that you want to pay for it yet. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll roll up my sleeves and I'll take this one on. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to come into their account, all right? But I'm going to say, okay, I'll dedicate X number of hours a week for you and I to work together. Now, this is assuming you have a platform because what you're going to do is you're going to get them comfortable about working with you. Don't do this for free. You're going to totally devalue your offer and you're going to devalue to them. Also, you're going to look like you're, what's the word I'm looking for? Desperate. That's it. I can tell you right now is that customers can smell desperate in the sales process and they run away. And so what you want to do is get yourself in the door. Now, an intelligent customer who goes, okay, this guy's going to do this or this woman's going to do this for cost, and they're going to come in and they're going to work this problem for me. Now, what does that give you the opportunity to do? It gives you the opportunity to come in and understand their business. Now, this could be a future account or it could be a similar company in the industry. Make sure that part of you're rolling up the sleeves and helping them. Let's say they've got a quality problem that you can solve or a customer service problem they can solve. Require that you have the ability to do some sort of survey or analysis. One is to serve them better, but have an insight into the industry. All right. And so I think that if you take that approach and you come in, it doesn't have a long span of time on it. It's not overly difficult, but it's a pain point that they have. Basically a spur under their saddle. You get it out. It's gonna feel better to them now that you've got that done. I think that's really the place that you can make your bones because the other part of the deal is testimonial. So let's go through that again. Let's talk about how we do that. I'm talking to a customer. We pretty much have identified what the pain point is, and then they're reluctant. They're hesitant. I say, okay, I'll tell you what, I can solve this problem for you. I'm really confident I can do that. What if I'll give you an offer that I don't offer, that nobody else is going to get? I'll do that for you for cost, and I'll help you solve that problem. Would you be interested? Because what I want to do is I want to demonstrate that we know what we're doing. I know what I'm doing. So this is a low risk way of you getting the problem solved and also being able to check us out. That's the way I would start the conversation. Now, if I'm only having one conversation like that, it's 50-50, it's mitzvah whether it goes through. But if I've got 5 or 6 people in the hopper and I can't seem to get them closed on my first deal, because I can guarantee you that you're going to be asked one of two questions. If you're going to large corporate consulting, the two questions you're going to be asked are your degrees and your experience. They're going to want a track record. They don't want to know that this is your first gig. In a smaller business, most business owners don't care whether you have academic credentials or not. What they do care about is experience. You got to get it someplace. Someplace has got to give that to you. So you make them that deal, and you just say, "Hey, I will help you fix that problem. We will do it on my platform. So what will happen is we will meet once or twice a week in my Zoom room. I'll send you a link to it, or let's go to that now and let me show you how that works. And that what I'll do is I'll work through that problem for you. And here's what I'll charge you. This is my cost to do it. And you may even reduce that a little bit, no free, and say, now in return, here's what I'd ask you to do for me. One is I'd love a testimonial coming out of this, talking about the fact that, I know what I'm doing. Number one. Number two is if there's any chance for future business with you, that in fact that happens. Okay. That I can use this to help you with some other problems you have. And number three, I would like some referrals. So they're going to get a problem solved. They're not going to play. They're not going to pay rack rate to have it solved, and that you get the testimonials. So I really like this process, and it's one that I've used in the past. And we used it with people coming out of the pandemic where you had accounts and they just shut you down, go, look, we're not going to do anything. Well, it's a good time to come back to them. All right, so that's what I got today. So now what's happening next week? Well, next week is we're going to be talking about delivering consulting services. Now that we've laid out kind of the process for what are the sales channels available, we're now going to be talking about the technology required. So we're going to be talking about kind of a generalized Zoom. We're going to be talking about a generalized process for doing assessments. And I got to generalize it because some of this is specific to the platform that you use, but that's where we're going to be going. So that'll be CIB.08, and that is on delivering consulting services. All right. And so with that, I greatly appreciate you listening, and all you people that have been following on Facebook in our group, and that is IBGR Network. And when you get to our business page, join Build Your Business Today, and join our group, and we can begin to talk to each other one-on-one. Now, on the other hand, if you're listening to this and you're only getting the audio from IBGR.network, then, and you're not a Facebook person, but you're a LinkedIn person, same offer to you. Okay? You go to LinkedIn, you go to our business page on LinkedIn, and that's IBGR Network. All right. When you get there, then join our group, and that is our growth community. And I'll do the same thing for you. Now, at the bottom of the page on our website, on our show notes page, that's CIB.07. At the very bottom, what do we have here? If you want to interact with us, you want to learn how to build a consulting firm. And as a matter of fact, we are working on a franchise for consulting, only it's going to be a different franchise than you got to shell out $100,000 to get it. We're going to do this quite differently. So yeah, it's one of the reasons I'm doing this series. If you're interested in starting a consulting company, then let's help you. So if you're a Facebook person, click that link, go to Facebook, and it's IBGR Network. If you are a LinkedIn person, it's the same thing. And make sure that you check out our mobile app at ibgr.app. We have it for both Apple and Android. And imagine this, everything we do, every solution we have, access to everything we do on an app in the palm of your hand. Thanks for listening. Go nowhere. We got a great programming day coming. And this is Eastman out. All right. So all the people that are still on Facebook with me, nothing much else to say other than if you're really interested in starting a consulting firm, and that's why we're doing this series, let me know. Just let me know in the group here, and I'll begin to work on it because you may be saying, well, what type of franchising model could you be thinking of? And I am thinking of one that's a little bit different, but I'm not going to tell you here. You got to get into the group, you got to request it, and then we'll get in a conversation because I think it's going to be a little bit unique. So thank you for being here. If you got any questions, I monitor this. If you got any comments you want to put in there, please do so. And I'll respond to you as quickly as I can. Typically, the response will be within half a business day. So if you put it in at 1 or 2 in the afternoon, for example, I'll either get to it before 7 or it's going to be after like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Because actually, I have a life and occasionally I do things other than work at the radio station. So thank you very much. Catch you next week.